everybody, welcome to Camel Chat. I'm John McPherson, and I'm here with Sheriff Bobby Kimbrough, and we're going to have a great chat. We've already talked probably about 20 minutes, and I'm excited to share some of these insights with you as you learn more about the sheriff as I have, and just a great guy, and we're going to learn about what his plans are and where his department's going and all of that kind of stuff. And so welcome to the chat, sir.
I appreciate you having me.
I appreciate you being here. It's it's really funny. We have a mutual friend, the guy I was in his wedding. I don't know if you knew that. I was in Danny's wedding.
No.
And Danny's son was my ring bearer.
Wow, didn't know that.
We've known each other for a while, and I'm like, I want to talk to the sheriff. And he's like, well, let me give you the lady's name to talk to, and then I guess you did something for the realtors, and Susan Jester lined that up, and she said, let me give you Alicia's name, and so then. I'm on the phone with the head basketball coach for the ladies over there at Winston State. I'm like, can you hold on one second? Sheriff, wait. And so you were so kind to agree to do this. And
of course.
I'm excited to hear all the stuff that you've already told me on tape now.
Yeah.
It's just, you're a very interesting person.
Well, thank you.
So you know what question one is, where you're from and how long you've been in Winston?
Well, I'm originally from Winston-Salem. I was born and raised in Winston-Salem. Spent my first several years growing up here, and born in Happy Hill Garden, raised in East Winston. Graduated from North Forsyth High School in 1979, left there, went down to Pfeiffer College for a couple years, left Pfeiffer College, came back home. Father told me two grown men couldn't live in the same house with one woman. Told me I need to find a job since I didn't finish school. And started working at Kmart, right. Code 39, as I was sharing with you earlier.
Yeah.
Code 39, cleaned the spills, stocked the shelves, cleaned the bathrooms, brought the carts in from outside. Kmart completed script. Helped the little old ladies. Helped the little. But you know what? Mm-hmm. The Kmart, which is now Gabe's, the little old lady that I was helping changed my life, right. Which was Barbara Fultz, who was the city personnel specialist for the city of Winston-Salem.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she would come in the store every Friday, Barbara Fultz, and she would, young man, can you come and help me? And I would say, yes, ma'am. And so I would grab the little red basket, put it on my arm, and walk around the store with her while she got her household goods. And she would ask me questions like, what do you want to do with yourself? And she would ask me these same questions every week. And then finally, she said, I want you to come see me. And I said, come see you where? She put out a card, and I said, wow, she's a city personnel specialist.
Right.
I went to see her. She told me that the fire department was hiring. At that time, Chief Lester Irving was the fire chief. And I said, I didn't want to be a fireman, ma'am. I want to be a police officer. It's always been my goal. Right. And she said, I'll tell you what, we'll get you in. George Sweat was the police chief then. George Sweat.
Yeah.
That's right.
Now, okay, so were you PSO at that point?
PSO. We came in as PSO.
Nobody knows what that is nowadays.
Yeah. So actually, Lou Powell was there momentarily.
Right.
And Sweat took Powell's place.
Right.
And so I started my career at the Winston-Salem Police Department in 1984. Right. Yeah, 84. Okay. And spent the first couple of years working there. And then there was a fire at Northside Shopping Center.
Okay.
I don't know if you were here then. Northside Shopping Center kind of burnt down right there where Cahill and Swings is.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah.
The one I remember is the Banbury one.
No. Northside caught on fire.
Okay.
And I got shocked real bad. And so I ended up working in the fire department for Chief Irvin as the assistant fire marshal.
Okay.
Yeah, and did that for a couple of years. Chief Hollis came in as the fire chief after Irving. Right. And I said, I need to go back to school. And so I enrolled over at High Point University, met Dave Holt, who was the registrar. We hit it off well, and I ended up going back to High Point, graduated from there. Once I finished and got my undergraduate degree, I applied for probation parole, North Carolina State probation parole. Right. Got hired, worked there as a probation officer. Then decided I wanted to go back to graduate school. And while in school, graduate school, the federal government was hiring agents. Then they had a freeze for years. And Clinton came in and lifted the freeze, President Clinton. I got hired, went to Quantico, Graduated from Quantico. My first duty assignment as a special agent was Detroit, Michigan. I was assigned to the Detroit Field Division for several years.
Our paths cross again.
Oh, yeah.
That's where I was born.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually live right there in Farmington Hills, coming down the Southfield every day, down the Lodge Freeway into the city, right there on Howard Street. Worked there for several years. Then I was sent to Atlanta for the '96 Olympics. I was down there in Atlanta for the '96 Olympics. From there, they sent me back to Detroit. Then I applied to be a part of what is called the FOG Group, Foreign Operations Group, specialized unit within DOJ. They sent me to language school to learn Spanish. Spanish is my second language. Mm-hmm. And so I lived in Roslyn, Virginia while in language school. After that, they shipped me to Puerto Rico, the DR, Port-au-Prince, Haiti, where I lived for a couple of years. Just moving around in the Caribbean, doing some amazing things. And
we're going to hear stories about some of this stuff. What you're allowed to tell us. And what department was that in? Because we haven't said that.
Yeah. So I retired, came back here right before 9/11, and when 9/11 occurred, at the time we didn't have air marshals. Mm-hmm. It was basically non-existent. And so they put agents on the planes until they can build that unit up.
Right.
So for a whole year, I was on planes. Every other day, I was flying to a different part of the United States.
And you're a single dad at this time?
No.
No?
I'm married. I'm married with kids at this time.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so my wife, she was mother and father.
Right.
Because I was gallivanting, working here, there, all over the country.
There's got to be someone on the plane.
Somebody, exactly,
right.
all over the country, all over the world. And so in 2002, they reassigned me to the Greensboro resident office in Greensboro. And that's where I remained until I retired in 2016.
Right.
But in 2005, God called my wife home. She passed. And that was a defining moment in my life. And so I retired in 2016 and decided, okay, what do I do now with myself?
Right.
Well,
because you weren't done.
No, I wasn't done. I still had a lot left in me. I wrote my first book called Surviving the Stop. Basically, at that time in 2016, we were having a lot of interactions with police shootings and civilians,
right.
motorists. And so I thought, you know what, I would share my story and what I think would help motorists survive the stop. Mm-hmm. And we titled the book Surviving the Stop, right. Put it out, started marketing. It was an Amazon bestseller for a while. And then I wrote the second book, Beyond Midnight, which I entitled Midnight Being a Metaphor for Difficult Time, Dark Places in Your Life. And I wrote that book sharing and being transparent about my life, some of the mistakes I made in life, wishing I could have been a better husband. I felt I needed to share. That was therapy for me. And so I retired in 16 and was doing some consulting work with Judge Glenda Hatchett, an attorney. She was handling police shootings and things like that. And then I decided, hey, met some people, a campaign manager, Cindy Frazier, met a few other people, and decided, Ellison, that I was going to run for the office of the sheriff. Yeah. And, a lot of people, as always in life, people will tell you what you can't do, what you shouldn't do, and what you can't do.
You got to learn for yourself.
And you got to learn for yourself. I prayed about it, and I was amazed at people that I thought would support me, who I thought loved me, told me don't do it, this ain't the time, so forth and so on. And at the end of the day, no man can tell another man what he can or cannot do, Yeah. And so God smiled on me, and here I am.
It was a close one, wasn't it? You guys.
10,000.
Yeah. So it was
a little over 10,000 votes we won by.
Yeah, I think, and what people don't know is you actually knew Scotsman from.
Oh yeah.
back when you were trying to get on with the
Yeah.
FBI, which
So
I had
I
run into him other times too.
yeah. So when I applied with the FBI and DEA, I met Schatzman. I went through their process. Schatzman and I met Schatzman in '93 when the FBI office was right there off of Gifford College Road, right there where the hub used to be, a men's clothing store, where I guess foreign car Italia and the Porsche dealership, all that is now. And so have a lot of respect for the man, and still have a lot of respect for him. And so when I got ready to retire, I introduced the resident agent in charge of DEA,
It was replacing you.
who was coming in.
Right.
I introduced him to Schatzman. And, you know, me and Schatzman talked, and I left, and, you know, one knows I was interested in coming to work for him. And at the time, I wasn't interested in coming to work. You know, I wanted to retire and then just enjoy life for a minute. And, you know, when I got ready to run, what I said to him was that, you know, I'm going to be a gentleman about this. You know, I'll never throw a rock at you. That's just not how I'm going to do or what I'm going to do, because we have a lot of the same friends. You know, we've traveled in some of the same circles.
I could see that if you first day on the job, if you didn't know how to get into the thing, he's somebody you call and he talks
Exactly.
about it. Yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked a lot. You know, if you saw some of the pictures of us on the campaign trail, you see us laughing, hugged up, whispering this, that, and the other. You know, we talk about, you know, both of us love ties. We talk about how we dressing and stuff like that. And so it was a good thing, you know. And so, as I said, you know, the night of the election, when the results came back, and we won.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and he called me, he called the restaurant, we talked, transition, and we went forward.
Well, it's interesting you say the restaurant, because you know that's question number 2.
Yeah.
What's your favorite place to eat in Winston?
So, you know, I have about,
You can be political on this, because the mayor said, "Oh, I eat anywhere." So then it's like, where's the last place you ate? So
yeah. So I eat a lot of places, right?
Well, you're right in the center of downtown.
Yeah. So I love Nobles. I love Village Tavern, Chick-fil-A, Dario's, Kimonos. You know, my kids love kimonos.
How old's your youngest kid now?
16.
16, okay.
So kimonos. I mean, we eat some of everywhere. The place right across the streets, what is it, City Grill downtown.
Right.
I love the shrimp platter. I love the salad that I get from the Cardinal.
Right.
I mean, I love me. I eat a lot of places, but yeah.
Yeah, we're so blessed. We you know, we had an event for the realtors. It was at the trophy room the other day.
Yeah.
And so Adam brought some food over from Jeffrey Adams.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my gosh. And then we've interviewed down at Meridian, Market Meridian. It's a good place and stuff. And I mean, I think one of the things that a lot of people talk about is Winston does have, you know, I think better restaurants than you'd expect from a city our size.
Oh, definitely. They have a plethora of restaurants. You know, Carrabba showed me a lot of love. You know, it's amazing that, like, certain restaurants, like I have to wait 2 hours to have a seat, right? Yeah. And then, you know, depending if they're booked, I say, no, I can't wait 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. But a lot of...
Carrabba's, what's funny about that, it's a national chain.
No,
but
Carrabba's...
the guy that owns it is local, and he will do anything he can for you.
Love him. Yeah. The guy at Carrabba's, the guy at Nobles, love them.
Yeah.
They go out of their way. Yeah,
absolutely.
For the community.
What do you like to do around town? Obviously,
so
you have 4 kids?
I have 7 boys.
You have 7 boys.
Yeah,
right,
I have 2 in the house now. All of them are gone but 2.
The comment was you don't have a football team, but we think you have a basketball team.
Oh yeah, I got a basketball team. I got a starting 5 and 2 subs.
All right.
Yeah, yeah, starting 5 and 2 subs.
Right.
2 left at the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so, what do you like to do?
So, I love to read. I love to drive. I love to ride my bicycle, which I hadn't ridden in a while.
What kind of bike you got?
What is that in there?
Stabler's tells me it did 70 miles or something one day. That's a little bit too much for me.
Nah.
Yeah.
What is that bike in my office?
Oh, so you got like a Peloton or something?
No. I got a real bicycle. Okay. Yeah.
So I just got a trainer. I've ridden it 10 minutes now because I'm a little overweight this time. But I will tell you, let's see, what is it? I have lost 7 pounds since Monday, so I started eating smart. And Stabler will go out and he'll ride and all this stuff. He goes, "Why don't you get out on the road?" I'm like, no, I'm fine. I don't want to hit people. I don't want to get hit by people. I'm fine. It's less time. Just get it,
Yeah.
But
Have to
I
bring-
I do love to come down here and rent the bikes over near Innovation Quarter and stuff and ride down towards Winston.
I have to bring my bicycle in here. It's back in the office, right? I pull it out every
We'll get
night.
it during a break or
Yeah,
something. How's that?
yeah.
But so that's really the top 3 questions.
Yeah.
That we start off with. Now we got a few minutes here. I want to start. Let's go back to East Winston. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So you're growing up. You graduate from North Forsyth. You said what your dad said to you. You talked about Kmart. All these things to me shape who you are.
Without question.
First thing I always, when we met earlier, I mean, I knew when I met you, you're a Christian. I knew that, and you put a lot of faith in our God, and so the Lord's blessed you many ways, sir.
He has.
And it's all these incidents. So I want to talk about one thing that you did, and it should take a few minutes, and then we'll take a break and come back. And that is, when you were elected, you did something that no one ever does. Usually it's everyone in the sheriff's department supports the sheriff. The sheriff doesn't get elected. You come in, and everyone that helped you throughout your campaign is suddenly put into positions and stuff like that, because that's just the way politics works a lot of times. How many people of Schatzman's staff did you demote, take pay away from? When I say demote, I'm saying cut them down or whatever, because I know some people were like the number 2 guy may not be the number 2 guy, but you didn't cut pay, you didn't do anything. No one left.
No. See, here's
Why?
the thing.
That's unusual. So tell them about you and why you make that decision.
Politics work like that. That's because people allow it to work like that. What I realize is that people's jobs are connected to their families, how they pay their bills, how they sustain their lifestyle. I haven't always have not.
You want to tell that story, and then we'll finish the story after the break. You want to tell why the story
Yeah.
in Kernersville?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I haven't always been amongst the have. I've been a have not. Don't look like what I've been through. Past used to say that all the time. You don't have to look like what you've been through. And so coming into this position, I never want to call someone a hardship. I never want to be able to look in the mirror and say, I fired that man. For what reason? What did he do to deserve that? Nothing. How do I look at myself for releasing a man because he don't believe in my politics or he or she didn't vote for me? Right. I told everyone on the campaign trail, what do you want? You want a Republican sheriff, a Democratic sheriff, an independent sheriff, or you want a good sheriff? Right. That's what you want. All the other stuff is just adjectives that at the end of the day, and so coming into this place is that if you didn't vote for me, I wasn't going to fire you. No, I wanted.
And I bet some people were scared too, because there were some pretty high up people that.
Of course. And I assured them when I came in the building, I walked around to the command staff and said, I come to do you no harm. Your family, your job is safe with me, right? And I meant that, and I honored that. Right. And so I did that because there was a time in my life when I was eating off $1 menu. McDonald's was my best friend, $1 menu. There was a time when I had to make sure my kids ate before I could eat. There was a time when my pride was bigger than it should have been, and God had a way of humbling me. And I think that what I went through humbled me and prepared me for what God was taking me to. And I tell this story all the time that you couldn't have scripted this at Hollywood. Warner's Brothers, Walt Disney couldn't have produced this down at their studios. They couldn't have done this. It had to be God. In 2005, when my wife passed, my life changed. It was a defining moment for me. It was a defining moment for my kids. And it was a financial hardship to the point to where we lost our home at 205 Oakmont Park Court. We built it from the ground up, designed it. We lost it. And you know what? Who would have thought that the same agency that served the papers on me
knocked on your door Somebody paid the money, knocked on your door to evict you.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Who would have thought that the same agency that I sit here now as the sheriff, you couldn't have scripted that. And then here's the other piece to that is that God has given me double for my troubles. Mm-hmm. He has raised me to a place to where I have more than I've ever had in my life. Mm-hmm. He has blessed me beyond my imagination. And that is why during the COVID, people say, well, your leadership sometimes reflects where you've been. Mm-hmm. And so during COVID, when they were evicting people, I was the first one statewide that stood up and said, we shouldn't be doing that. Reached out to Chief Justice Beasley at the time, superwoman, phenomenal woman, and she stopped the evictions. People, landlords were saying, well, why did you do that? Because I know what the people who are being evicted feel like. Everybody's not paying their bills is not paying them because they don't want to. Some of them are paying it because they can't. I understood that. Right. Life happens, right? Life will beat you sometime to a place to where you don't want to wake up. You don't want to see people. You don't want to interact. I've been one of those people, right. And I talked about it in my book, Beyond Midnight. Right. There are three kinds of people. Those are going into something, in something, coming out. And then there's a fourth kind, a group that don't make it out. Right. Sometimes they become overtaken by the situation, and it takes them into a situational depression, and they kill themselves, they hang themselves, they become alcoholics, addicts, and so forth. And so while I didn't drink, I didn't use drugs, my mental capacity was dwindling because of the situation that I was in. I was beating myself in here, yeah. Right? To the point to where I contemplated, maybe I'm better off, my kids are better off if I accidentally drive off the bridge, right.
Right. And then they get the money.
They get them. All these things go through your head. Right. But what I said to myself and when I prayed to God was that, God, if you get me through this, every time I open my mouth to stand before your people, I will always recognize you and give you praise for what you've done for me and what you brought me through. And anybody will tell you, anytime I've spoken publicly, I will tell you there are four things that I always say. I'd be remiss if I didn't give thanks to the author of my life and the makers of the heavens and earth for what he's doing, done, and may not even do in my life. And that's a promise that I made to God, that because I know what he's done for me. I know what he's done for me. I tell people this all the time, and they'd say, yeah, you're crazy, right? But the morning of the election, I had about 300 signs that I had not put out, okay? Yeah. I started right there in front of Parkland High School, follow this. And I started putting signs in the medium from Parkland High School all the way out to Yorkshire, like going toward Wake Forest on Silas Creek. You with me?
I know exactly where it is.
Okay.
I used to live there.
Okay. Well, as I'm heading toward Wake Forest, it's about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. Check the weather report. Mm-hmm. And I noticed, and I thought I was asleep or tired or dreaming because I hadn't been to sleep. I was by myself. I pulled over on the side of the road to put a sign down in the medium. This is 4 o'clock in the morning. When I got out, I could see it raining on one side of the street, the traffic that's headed toward the mall on Silas Creek.
Don't you tell me this.
It's raining like cats and dogs. But it's not raining it hadn't crossed over. And I thought I was dreaming, so I walked across the street to get wet, yeah. Came back, sat in the hatch of my car, and I started crying. Because that morning was the election. Yeah. And I had been saying, God, give me a sign.
That's a pretty good one.
What's going to happen? Give me a sign. At 6:30, Bishop Neil Ellis called me from the Bahamas. Mm-hmm. Bishop Neil Ellis, he's the prelate bishop of Global Fellowship. Mm-hmm. At 7 o'clock, I got a call from Bishop McCarter, right? I went home, took a shower, got dressed, and went to the barber shop. I told my barber, right, Bailey at the time was my barber. Bailey's her creation, right there on 311. I said, give me a Sheriff victory cut. Cut me nice and tight, is what I told him.
Nice and tight.
That's exactly what I told him, right? I left the barbershop and I just started floating around to different precinct voting sites.
Wave, and you had people standing out there.
Exactly.
All right, hold on. We got to take a break.
Sure.
Right. So we'll take a quick break, put up the website for Sheriff's Department here, and then we'll come back and talk more to you. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Here with Sheriff Kimbrough, and I'm afraid that if we didn't have this scheduled, sir, that you and I'd talk for hours, because we have a lot of...
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's where I used to live, coming down the hill when this moment happened.
Yeah.
When you come underneath the bridge...
Exactly.
On the right-hand side's the police trap.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I say trap, but yeah.
My dad graveled it, so the police, I'd be out shooting hoops. So
Yeah.
you're over, we're shooting hoops, and all of a sudden a police car would pull in, and all my friends were like, what the heck's this? Yeah. And they'd wave at me and turn, and then to go drop 3 tires off, and then they'd be gone. It's like, what was that? That's, we don't care. So my dad actually put a little gravel turnaround in there, because I was going to eventually start parking there, but more importantly, so the police could come in.
So you know exactly what I'm talking
I know
about.
exactly where you're talking about. Right there at the bottom where it hollers out.
Exactly.
Hollers out. There's the park horse over here, Schaffner Park.
There it is.
And so, we get the high and tight. We're at home. You shower, and then you have to do what you have to do, which is, and I ran for office in Louisville,
Yeah.
totally different. You have to run, and you got to wave and talk to people and thank people for coming out, because
I did.
there's nothing worse than standing on that concrete for any amount of time asking people to vote for who you believe in and being told, no thank you.
Yeah.
But you got to do it.
Yeah, so I did just that. I went around to a few places. I went out to Glenn High School, and Brad was out there, Stanley. He and I talked. I told him, appreciate everything.
Right.
And I kept going on. Then I went down to right there below Parkland, the fire station there, Griffin Fire Station, all the way out near the Bojangles, almost like going into Davidson County.
Right.
Stood out there, saw some people.
Almost to the K&W.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or no, further past
Further
that.
past K&W.
Yeah.
Down past Bojangles.
Almost to, yeah. Wow.
To the line.
Yeah. So then, now Brad Stanley was like the number 2 person with Shotsman.
He was.
And is he retired now, or is he still here?
He retired last week.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
He
he
had
stayed.
his job the whole time.
He did.
He was good at what he did.
Very good at
Yeah.
what he did.
Now, you and I disagree on something.
Yeah.
This doesn't usually happen on Camel City
That's
Chat.
fine. Yeah.
I don't agree with you how quickly you stop the evictions.
Yeah.
And you know why?
Yeah.
So I'm involved with the Realtors Association.
Uh-huh.
And the one thing that we both have is we're servant leaders.
Yeah.
Sweeping the broom.
Yeah.
You got to learn it all. But with what you did, you forgot about an aspect of the community. It's not that you forgot about it, because we already talked about
Right.
this. Explain what we should be doing for the landlords that aren't getting paid the rent right now.
Well, there's several ways. There's enough funding that coming from the federal government that could have been given to the landlord on behalf of the tenant.
Right.
Right? As opposed to the tenant having to present itself, get the money, stop the money from going there. It could have been saying, okay, fill out the form what the landlord is owed, the federal government that was sending the money in through the COVID relief. That could have went directly to the landlord.
We're all on the same page.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it's not happening.
I know that.
Yeah.
I know that.
And what's happening is departments are getting it. We've been on the phone. So this last week was Realtor Leadership Week in North Carolina, where we meet. So we've met with Jeff Zinger.
Okay.
I'm his what's called a SPC, State
Okay.
Political Coordinator. So I call Jeff when we have issues. I got another one, and when I say his name, you're not allowed to shake your head or anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Paul Lowe.
Okay.
Senator Lowe.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's asked them 3 times if they can fire the guy that they assigned to him. But I love Paul.
Yeah.
We talk. Yeah, we're good
I love
friends.
him. He's a good
Yeah,
guy.
No, he's a great guy. I'm just.
He is. Yeah.
So Jeff and Paul were in on these talks, and we're talking about everything right now. Well, we've now transitioned to this is National Leadership Week. So we'll go in and we'll meet with Patrick McHenry is where I'm at.
Yeah.
So you're my policing officer. So I live in Clemens, but not in either of the 2 municipalities. So I'm in
Right.
Forsyth County.
Right.
So when I have an issue, I'm calling you. You guys are coming out. We live right off of Stiers Ferry Road.
Yeah.
But we can't be in Louisville.
Right.
We can't be in Clemens.
Right.
And so, it is. It's a very interesting thing to where you are with this, because once you got elected, you serve at the will of the people.
Without
but
question.
But then you have to go to these people and work with them as well too. So I mean, you've got a dear friend of mine, Dudley, that you work with.
Of course.
And then you have, Dudley has the worst job in the world. It takes a majority to hire him and one to fire him, because after a while, if they're sick of hearing about someone complain about somebody, so they all just say, well, let's just get somebody new. But, we were on with Zinger, and then Paul was late because Trey Mayo was down there talking to him. So I'm texting Trey going, what are you doing, man? You're making him late for my meeting. So I'm going to go get, but you have 3 people that really work together with you and the police chief and the fire chief and you.
Oh, yeah.
And you all rely on each other. It's almost like the armed forces. The Army comes in and says, hey, 30% of the land's covered by that, so we should get 30% of the budget.
Right.
The Navy says 70% with us and the Marines, and then the Air Force goes, excuse me, how much do I get?
Yeah.
So you guys all have to work together.
That's true.
So now let's dive into, you've been elected. What are your goals for the Sheriff's Department? Because I know we're having policing things all going on, and we'll get into some of that, which you've told me, ask me any question.
Yeah.
I know that.
So
tell me what's going on with policing.
So my thing
and
is,
your goals.
So my thing is, and my goals for the sheriff's office is that, and you hit it on the head, the sheriff is elected, not selected. The sheriff is elected by the people every 4 years.
Right.
Every 4 years, the people can fire me if they choose to, right? And so I answer to the people and God. That's who my boss is, the people. And that's how I live. This can't be a divided county. It can't be the city, the county, the north, the south, the east, and the west, because like the Air Force, all of that sits in my atmosphere.
Right.
The city sits inside the county.
Right.
So the resources that I give to the city or to the county, I have to be able to at least give something to the city, because city taxpayers pay county taxes. City dwellers pay county taxes, right?
75 cents?
Exactly. So as a sheriff, I have to be mindful of everything that's going on. The Constitution says the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer in that county, period, right? And so what I see the vision of the sheriff's office is to be a bridge maker for the city, the county, an ambassador of goodwill, bringing all those things together. My vision and my legacy is that when I'm gone, I want people to say, he came, he made it better than it was before he got here. We have more officers, deputies working in this county than we've ever had in the history since 1852, since Isaac Church was appointed as the first sheriff. We have more coverage than you've ever had in this county. We have more diversity. We are more progressive than any other sheriff's office in this state, right? We have technology that is never had here.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah. We are literally second to nobody sheriff's office in this state.
Did you guys just do all new radios, or you're working towards all new radios?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have
put in the budget.
Yeah, we have done some amazing things because the people of this county deserve that. This is the 4th largest county in the state of North Carolina. There's Mecklenburg, there's Wake, there's Gifford, then there's Forsyth, right? And the people of this county deserve the best that we can give them. And that is how I live it every day. I'm going to give them the best service possible, the best technology, and the best service. And the only way I can do that is every day I've got to see, how do we become better than yesterday?
Right. Well, one way that you do it, which has blown me away, is, and I don't think a lot of people understand all this stuff. So I have a friend. You don't even know this, I was one of his background checks, and they still gave him a job with the SBI. So I went to Danny's graduation. But Danny retires from SBI because they're going to kick him out.
Mays, yeah.
Right? Because you can't be there past a certain
right.
amount. And so you guys, it's so wonderful. If someone retires, you can go get them, because that's a state job. and you're a county job.
Exactly.
So you're able to provide Danny, who didn't want to retire, the ability to come in here.
Of
and
course.
You've got someone that has white collar background, interview skills, now making sure you're getting the right people to come in
Without
and work.
question.
And you're doing that everywhere.
Without question. And that's one of the things that when we came in and we looked at what was happening here, we realized that the number of deputies to patrol this county was way under what the data say we should have.
Right.
But the thing was, we couldn't get people to come work here. We couldn't get those numbers up. So how do we do that? We do that by rebranding. We do that by making it appealing to come work here. We do that by saying, you know, this is not a place where we're going to put our thumb on you. This is a place where we're going to grow you. We're going to give you an opportunity what we believe to be one of the best law enforcement agencies in the state, to be a part of that. We do that by putting forth what we call those things that we talk about, those pillars that we stand on. That's integrity, that's transparency. All of those things, that's the things that we build every day. Every week here, every Monday morning, we start off command meeting with prayer. When I came in, people thought that was crazy, right? And I said, you don't have to pray if you don't want to. Just don't interrupt us while we're praying.
Right.
So we sit in the big room in there, and the chaplain, Glenn Davis, leads us in prayer, right? You don't have to pray, but just don't talk while we're praying, while he's speaking.
See, I'm a master mason.
Okay, you're a traveling man.
Yeah, yes, sir. And we open the book up.
Yeah.
And if you're not a Christian, we open both books up. You know, we've got the Quran there.
Exactly.
And what we do is we all pray to one person up there.
Exactly.
It may be different from person to person.
Exactly.
And I can already tell this. If you had someone in here that said, you know, hey, I want to pray to Muhammad. Or
that's fine.
Friend, you know what you'd do? You'd have that prayer too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
because
do
you
it.
got to represent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we do that every. We're more diverse than we've ever been here.
Right.
We have more diversity here in this sheriff's office than we've ever had. Right. And I think that by doing that, God has given us favor. We have favor here that I'm gonna never imagine. We have county commissioners here that I think love us. Mm-hmm. Everything that we ask the county commissioners for, basically, if we can explain it and justify it, they usually go with us on it.
Well, what's interesting,
I love my commissioners. They take care of me.
and I think that they do love you too.
I love them.
I think that one thing that has been interesting to me is, and it's changing. As I told you, I'm friends with Dudley.
Yeah.
I'm friends with Trey.
Yeah.
And you know, what I would say is we're getting away from the I don't want to work for the fire department because I can make more money in Charlotte.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not going to go be a police officer in Greensboro, you know, because I can do well here with Chief Thompson, and then now with the sheriff as well too. I mean, you know, you guys are rebranding it, and we're paying the wages that we have to.
Got to be competitive.
Yeah, and taking the car home is
got to
nice.
be competitive. Exactly.
Yeah. And what's finally happened is, is I'm a proponent of this when I've been involved in leadership, is you have to be a worker person.
Exactly.
What I mean by that is you have a group of commissioners now that understand the worker, and you have to support the worker until, you know, there's a reason not to. But I mean, if I just asking to take the car out of the county or stuff like that, or out of the city, remember you had to stop the police car right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember? Yeah.
It's 2 more miles home. Come on. Yeah.
Really?
How crazy is that?
Really crazy, right?
Yeah.
So, but think about this. The real estate business has changed since you entered it years ago.
That's my next question
right?
to you.
It has changed,
yes,
right?
Right.
Law enforcement in every profession on the planet is constantly changing.
How has it changed since you get in? That was my next question.
Oh my gosh, it's changed in a million ways. You figure when I entered law enforcement in 1984, there was no cell phones, iPhones. There was no internet, iNet, all the capabilities that we have now. It didn't exist. It didn't exist.
How long did it take for you to write a report?
Exactly. I mean, you had to write it, then go to PSC, then type it.
Tripled and all
yeah,
that
oh
stuff.
my God, you got to get the paper out. You got to put some carbon paper between it and all of the craziness. Hope you don't get it on your pants and all of this stuff like that, right?
Right.
Technology has changed the way the perpetrators commit crimes. They become more sophisticated in how they do them. They become more layered in how they do it. They become more violent. There's so many things that have changed as it relates to law enforcement from 1984 to 2021. And you have to stay progressive. If you don't, everybody has one now, a cell phone, iPhone. Everybody's recording.
And we'll talk about that after this break.
That has changed. That has changed the world.
Yeah.
Right. The ability to connect as quickly, moments all over the world. We can go live right now and be seen everywhere. Right. And so I think that you have to be progressive in order to stay relevant. If you're not progressive, you won't be relevant. You'll be irrelevant. And so one of the things that we have prided ourselves on is that being a part of this community, we have what I call community credibility.
Right.
Several months ago, a year ago, we had the John Neville situation.
I was going to ask that after the
That's
break.
fine.
I figure we'll go into that.
That's fine. You had 7 counties in this state, large, the 7 largest counties. All 7 of them, with the exception of one, had rioting and all kind of stuff, right? Except for one.
We've only had it happen one time. It was as we got close to that, after Floyd, where they went down on the street. I remember my mother-in-law was here, and we were talking about going to a Panthers game, and we didn't go because they were on the highway in Charlotte.
Right. But what I'm saying was that we didn't have windows broken. We didn't have people riding on the sidewalk, the craziness that they had in Charlotte and some of the other larger cities, right? Mm-hmm. And even cities smaller than us. And we accredit that is that we had community credibility.
And you were down on the corner talking to people.
We were down on the corner talking to people.
Right.
We were walking with them. We were inviting people into this office, into this space, having conversation with them. And that is because I believe that a law enforcement agency in the 21st century has to be accessible.
But we have to give you the tools to do your job.
And you got to give us the tools to do the job.
And transparency.
And transparency is key.
Comes at a point.
It does.
We're going to take a break.
Let's do it.
We'll talk about that. We'll be right back with the sheriff and talking about transparency, all of the things that are transpiring over the world, and how he wants to keep Forsyth County and its citizens safe. We'll be right back. Welcome back. During the break, as you'll see in the picture that you just saw, Sheriff showed me his specialized bike, and so you really ride that a lot?
I do. Yeah.
So
had a knee replacement a couple years ago, so I don't ride as much. Ortho Carolina gave me a whole new knee.
I just got the shoulder in December.
Yeah.
They worked on that. So
yeah.
It's amazing how different it is.
It is.
Right. So let's talk about transparency.
Let's go.
I always talk with my guests beforehand and say, hey, I'm just throwing softball questions. And you told me that you did not allow that. You wanted real questions.
I don't like softball questions.
Right. So, transparency. We've got John Neville.
Yes.
Right? As people may or may not know, you were over the jail as well, right? So, I have a question I want to ask, but it's not, I'll ask that in a minute. So, being over the jail, you now have some new firms coming in because they weren't able to just tell everybody what's going on. And then
so basically,
I want to talk about body cam footage because
sure.
realize that you have to have that analyze any footage
right
to support cases, to
right.
To protect
right.
the victims as well as everyone before. But go ahead.
Right. So healthcare is not decided by the sheriff's office.
Okay.
I don't choose who the healthcare provider is. I don't. WellPath was the healthcare provider before we ever came here in 2017. When I came here in 2018, WellPath was already here, okay? And so WellPath has been here. When I came in the door, I originally wanted to get rid of WellPath.
Okay.
I spoke with some people. I said, I don't want to speak to the regional director. I want to see the CEO.
Right.
The CEO showed up with his whole team. And we began building a suit. And I always give this analogy. Healthcare is like a tailor-made suit versus buying one off the rack. Buying one off the rack is standard size, 44 long is what I am. But every now and then when I have a few extra coins and I can afford a tailor-made suit, it fits me totally different. It looks different. Healthcare is the same way. Healthcare in Guilford is not the same healthcare in Forsyth or Mecklenburg. We have tailor-made the healthcare in Forsyth County Detention Center, i.e., you have paramedics in there now. You never had that before. You never had that, okay? The increase the number of staffing. You never had that. So we built that health care from day one to what it is now. Of course, there was an incident. The world knows about it, okay? This year, the bid went out. They got a different bid. The people that won the bid is NavCare, okay? For 2 years, thank God the commissioners gave it to us this year, I've been asking for a mental health unit inside the detention center because detention centers across America has become the placing ground for those with mental health illness. There's a certain percentage of people that go into the detention centers that have mental health issues. And all that does is exacerbates the issues if you have, exactly, confinement. Okay, so we have a new healthcare provider. Okay. And what I said yesterday, the comment that I made in the paper was that I'm hopeful, prayerful, they will increase and keep the same standard of care better than what it had. And we accept what the commissioners voted that we have. We accept that. Look forward to working with them. But I don't have a vote in that. I don't get to say I want you, or you to be the healthcare provider. That's totally out of my wheelhouse.
So, with all this, when an incident happens, we all see what we want to see.
Oh, yeah.
You know, some people are going to see one incident one way, others another way, and others another way. So, I mean, you know, if it's a female, a lady may look at it different than a man, you know, I mean, or whatever. Race,
each person's perceptions becomes their reality.
Color, national origin, age, familial status, sex, gender, you know, all of that.
Of course.
And so, how do you, as the sheriff, work with? I mean, I know that. I mean, you communicate with the families and things that are going on, and I mean, how? That's got to be the worst aspect of your job.
That was one of the worst aspects of my job. You know, I've told people several times. I talked with Sean the day of.
Right.
Right. Sean is the son.
Right.
Talk with him the day of. I think that we were transparent from the beginning. Mm-hmm. You know, at some point in time, years from now, when all is said and done, you know, we'll have a conversation. You know, sometimes perception becomes your reality, but the reality is different from your perception. We in this office have been nothing but transparent. We in this office have been nothing but righteous. And at some point in time, you know, I'm probably going to have that conversation openly just to let people know, you know, you have no clue of what this office has done for the people. You have no idea of what this office has been to the people.
What blows me away is and this happened recently in a meeting that I was in, is someone went above and beyond to be transparent. Something that could have been passed by a smaller side of the organization, but said, hey, let's send this out to everyone. And then it was turned around and said, why are we just getting this now?
Exactly.
And
here's the thing. Here's the thing that we could have investigated that ourselves.
Right.
You do know that, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. The law says
internal.
Exactly.
Right.
The law says that, right?
I don't think I would have done that if I were you, which you didn't.
And I didn't.
Right.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure you checked into it, but that's you've got to get more up the chain.
At the end of the day, what I'm gonna live by what is right, what is moral, what is legal. Because at the end of the day, because I've got to look in the mirror. Yeah. Yeah. And so I've got to be able to say at the end of the day, I did the right thing. Not the black, not the white, not the political thing. I did the right thing. And that's how I live my day. And when I walk out of here every day, and when my term is up, hope God gives me 4 more years, and I walk out of here in 4 more years at the end of the 2 terms that I've asked God for, that I walk out of here intact, knowing that I have done the right thing. Right. And the person that comes behind me after 2 terms, that he or she continues to do the right thing, and I have left this place better than it was before I got here. We know it's better than it was before we got here. We know that the stats, the data every instrument you use to measure it will show that now.
Right.
And so I'm at peace because we have done the right thing.
How do we change policing? Because I fear this get rid of policing.
You can't, the society, listen to this. I had a conversation with Mr. James yesterday, the other day, Paul James, who is the public defender, right? Right? Brilliant man, brilliant. He's a walking black law dictionary, right? He is brilliant, I think, anyway. That's my personal opinion. And he and I was having this conversation about policing, abolish the police. That's silly conversation. That is foolish conversation. The society that you and I live in right now, here in the United States of America, you could not live without law and order. You could not. You can't show me no matrix that you could. You can't show me no situation. Because let's say you married. I see the ring on your hand, right? You left for work today. Your wife left for work today, right? Let's say me and some more guys decided, you know what? That house is empty today. We're going to move into that house. That house is now mine. You left it empty. Possession of law is empty. It's mine. I got it. There's no police. So you come home now, and me and my family say, hey, this house was empty this morning. We decided to come in here and occupy it, right?
Right.
There is no law and order. What do? What's your recourse?
Mm-hmm. Oh, you don't want to ask me that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure.
I'm gonna get them out of the house.
Exactly.
Right.
And guess what? What you trying to get them out of the house with, they're gonna be trying to keep you from coming in the house with. So you got an all out.
But you can't. You see, now you're gonna know a little bit about me. I can't force them out of my house with a gun unless escalation of force has come to the point that allows me to fear for my life.
But if they refuse to let you,
yes, I do have that in my pocket, sir.
Yeah. So if they refuse to come out of your house, what do you do? Who do you call if you can't call law enforcement?
I wait for them to leave, I guess. But see, that's where we go here. In New York City, when they're talking about changing things and only sending like mental health workers, how many people are going to die before they realize that's not
a ton. So I give you an example. Right. Give you an example. As recently as
Boone, North Carolina.
No, before Boone, I'm going to give you one recent in the Boone. Right. Let's go back to Wednesday. Right here on Lockland Avenue. Right? Call comes in. Man done beat some people up, or somebody saying the man is disturbed inside of the house, right? You send a caseworker, right?
Yeah.
And what happens?
We are going to be...
Exactly. And then here's the thing. If you want to do that and say, well, we're going to pair them up together, you can't do that unless you increase the funding, right? To train somebody. We have an ER doctor that, I'm probably ahead of myself, that Baptist gave us to physically train BLET. We have an ER doctor that has went through BLET that will actually we'll be one of the first to do this. We worked out a partnership. He'll actually be on the streets, patrolling, right, in tangent with us, right? But let's say a call comes in. And here's the thing, you don't know what the call is when it comes into communication. It could be unknown trouble. What are you seeing? Who are you seeing?
Right. And the worst call is a domestic disagreement.
Domestic disturbance.
Because my wife may hate me at that moment, but when you start to touch me, she's not going to like it.
She ain't going to like you, right? It could be welfare check in Watauga County. Welfare check. So who do you send on the welfare check? Who would you send based on this matrix? You would send a caseworker, you send a social worker, right? Yeah. And you send a social worker, and guess what happens?
We're reading about it. And Sheriff, when I go to a lockout,
yes,
do you know what I do? I stand behind your car while they're up there working because they're trained.
So what would you do?
What was it over off of near the old, they
exactly.
The lady pushed the gun out in front of her face and shot and killed a realtor.
Exactly.
20 years ago. So
when you start talking about, well, we don't need the police or abolish police, our society has moved so far to where there's no way we could function without law and order. It's no way. I've wrecked my brain trying to figure out how do we do that? How do you do that?
Well,
when every other person has, whether they have a legal gun or a legal gun, has a firearm.
Right.
So how do you navigate in a society where law and order is absent? How do you do that?
Well, I think you got to do some of the stuff like with Shaquille O'Neal and some of the NBA stars, if you've got someone like that, or even just where you're playing ball with the kids
You got to get into the community. You got to be in the community.
Right.
That's a given. But you got to have law enforcement. You can't defund them.
Right.
Think about it. You run your household on a certain budget, and I come in and say I'm going to defund some of the money.
Right.
You couldn't function at the same level. You think about Fortune 500 companies. I'm going to defund them. They couldn't function at the same level. You can refund, increase the budget, and give some money some other places and do that. That would be great. But you can't take away, because most law enforcement agencies are already functioning at minimum level of what they need. You want better officers, you want better training, that costs money. You want high-speed technology, that costs money, right?
He's 15 years old.
Exactly.
His dad will never have the same conversation that you had with yours.
Never.
16-year-old kid going out to drive. You wrote a whole book on it.
Exactly.
How do we change that?
So, I say this all the time. There are some things in our society that has happened that we haven't went back and fixed. We haven't mined the gap. There are some gaps in our society that has come forward through generation, to where we still see a population, black and brown people, is not equal. We see them as less than. And how I see you will determine how I treat you, what I do for you, and what I will do to you, right? So as a black man, even though I may be the sheriff, I'm still black. Right. I was black when I was a special agent. I was black when I was a police officer. I was black as a child. I may be black when they buried me, right? I could leave this county, and I have left this county, and people don't know who I am. I'm just a black guy driving. I've been in my own county as recently as 3 months ago. You probably saw the story where a guy was arrested who just cussed me out, drunk, out of his mind, right? When my guys showed up, police department, sheriff's office showed up, he stood between them and said, y'all get him. Y'all get him, right? Well, guess what? If we would have been anywhere else in, let's say, small town USA, and
across the county line, you could have been.
And an older white guy is standing talking to some white deputies, and a black guy standing there in sweats, tennis shoes, and a t-shirt, and that guy said, y'all get him. He did this. They probably would have came to see me.
Right.
But because my guys knew that was still a sheriff in sweats and tennis shoes and a t-shirt on a Friday evening,
right,
in Clemens at the BP gas station, right?
Right.
He ain't done nothing crazy.
Right.
That could have been a problem. But the problem the guy made was he saw me as a black guy.
Right.
He had no idea I was a sheriff. And even when I told him I'm in law enforcement, he still continued to cuss me out. And he was drunk because I didn't want to buy a TV from him.
Right.
Right? In the back of his car, right?
Okay. Yeah.
He wanted to cuss me out.
Right.
Call me every, I'm not gonna, no, you're not gonna do that to me, sir.
Right.
You done almost ran into my car, you done ran up on the curb to the store manager had to come out of the gas station, like, what is going on out here, right? So I had to move so I could get out of my car because you done pulled that close to me. I can't even open the door, okay? Mm-hmm. He didn't see me as somebody equal to him. He didn't see me as when I said, sir, I don't want to buy the TV, sir. I'm a police officer. I can't buy anything from you like that. I can't do that. I can't. Nor do I want it, sir. Can you just go on about your business? Then I'm standing there and I smell your breath. I can tell you're drunk. I can tell you're drunk because you just pulled up on the curb, right? And you telling me you're going to make me buy the TV from you? Leave me alone, sir. And then you're going to call me something that I'm not? I'm not ignorant. I'm not a baboon,
Right.
And you're going to talk to me like that? To the point to where the manager of the store calls the police. And then I say, what am I doing out here? I'm the police. I can call myself, right?
Right. Probably better you didn't,
But I did.
Right.
And when I call, I say, hey, this is Kimbrough, this is 01. Can you send me a mark unit? And then the guy getting loud, I say, you know what, just bump him up to code 2 because, if this guy touched me, I don't want the people to say the sheriff out there in the street acting crazy, right? So luckily they got there, they handled it, they arrested the guy. He was twice his limits of drunk. He was drunk. But guess what? If I would have been anybody else, that man probably would have got hurt, or it could have been an ugly situation.
Right.
And I realized that.
And then that's, again, a tarnish on law enforcement.
Exactly.
When you did nothing wrong.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So I understand as a society, we've got to do better. We in this together. We've got to fix some things. We've got to realize that this dark place that we in, the way out of it is our togetherness. You know what I mean? We got to address issues that are wrong, whether it's in law enforcement. If it's wrong, let's address it. If it's in the private sector, let's address it. If it's us, we got to address the issues that plague us, that keep us from being as great as we could be and better than we are. We got to address some issues.
The greatest lesson that I ever learned was my first week at Winston-Salem State.
Wow.
I, as a white man, was taught that I'm supposed to be colorblind. And I was taught that's not true.
It's not.
I'm supposed to understand what you've been through as a black man.
Right.
I'm supposed to respect you as a black man. What happened was, it's like someone was talking and somebody stood up and they said, yeah, I don't want you to think of me as everyone's the same color. You don't understand what I go through. You don't understand that. And it opened up my mind and to see differently. What do we have to do in Winston as we move forward, as we kind of end our show here? How can we take Winston forward?
I think here in Winston-Salem and Forsyth County, we're doing a phenomenal job, one of the best places in the world to live. How we keep moving forward is we create a table where everyone has a voice. The rich, the middle, the poor, the elite. Sit down. We'll address some issues in our community, that illiteracy, poverty, all of these things.
You're born poor here, you're going to die poor here right now.
Pretty much.
Yeah, we are like the worst county in the United States.
Exactly. We've got to address that.
Right.
That affects criminal activity. That affects everything. People got to eat. People got to live. Right? We got to address these issues from a holistic point of view. We've got to sit down at the table and hear the people. That's what we got to do.
Right.
We got to provide opportunities. That's what we got to do. We got to bring some people to the table that really care. Because at the end of the day, I don't care where you live in this county. I don't care where you live. You will be affected by what's happening here. Good, bad, or indifferent. It's a fact. Mm-hmm. And we've got to address these issues now because the gap is widening. You know, that the numbers that you're talking about, the 14-year life expectancy in a certain zip code where if you're born there, you got a 14-year life expectancy less than someone living in another part of the county. You're going to most likely got an 80% chance of dying poor, right? You have no upward mobility. That same zip code has the lowest illiteracy, poverty, and so forth and so on. Food, all those sustainable things that we take for granted in certain parts of the county, they don't have there.
You have a food line on what is it?
MLK, New Walkertown.
Thank you.
Yeah.
New Walkertown.
Yeah.
Where's the other grocery store?
You tell me. But I can tell you there's an ABC store there.
Yeah.
I can tell you there's a malt liquor store there. Well, you know, I can tell you there's a Popeyes there, a McDonald's there.
And somebody's usually cooking in the parking lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but there is no, and until we can get, and I don't know, because when I was on town council in Louisville, what we would do is and for all my developer friends who don't love this, is you plant a tree, you had to have one in every yard. If
Wow.
you put impervious surface down, you had to have a walking path.
Wow.
So every foot of driveway, you have a foot of gravel, or you have that, based on that.
And where's the nearest emergency care for that in East Winston?
Okay, there's what?
Emergency care, health care.
Right, and so what I'm saying is do we say now to someone that's wanting to build a grocery store here, can you support a grocery store here? Or can we get, Lowe's, Food Line, Publix and stuff to form a co-op and put it over here? I know we've got Goler Church, historic church.
Yeah.
Someone's trying to buy it and tear it down. Then you got other people that are trying to buy it and turn it back into a church. What's the better service there? You got to keep the history where the history is.
You got
to.
to.
You got to take care of people.
No question.
And I appreciate what you've done for us.
No, you know what? I appreciate you coming and sharing these stories. I think that what you're doing has the ability to change the atmosphere. You know, when you start changing the atmosphere, you have the ability to change outcomes. People like you need to get out and put this message out, because hopefully the movers and the shakers, the bean counters, the flows of the world, the Reynoldses of the world.
He's supposed to be on. Flow's supposed to be on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That can hear this, that can say, you know what, the Deli Wattses, let's do this, let's do that. The Lee Gatterdies, you know, all these folk in here that could put a group of people at the table and make something happen.
I have a friend of mine, he's actually my college roommate, and we've talked about this, and I, of course, would definitely reach out to you. But he's at Ernst & Young, and he wants to form some sort of a, a charity board, etc. And I'm encouraging him to come to Winston. I want to get like Craig Richardson, who is my professor from Winston-Salem State. And I want to get, people like a Lou Baldwin or a Philip Johnson who are in that property management piece, and, get some of the bishops you've talked about, yourself or whatever, and get them at the table and talk about fair housing and affordable housing. Can we go into a community and try and work with individuals in that community that have businesses in that community to work on the project?
That will be
get
huge.
A lot, et cetera, and stuff like that. But the problem is then we get into all of the fees, and that's what makes it not able to be affordable. And so how do we get that and things like that? But we've got to come up with a way, and we've got to get. I'm not the smart person at the table, but I know that I can reach out to you and you'd come to the table
Without question.
And so it's getting the situation so everyone comes to the table, and it may have to be a Zoom call, to start off with or whatever, but just getting that dialogue going. I know that Love Out Loud.
Yeah.
I'm sure Nigel Alston's been on the show.
Of course.
And Mayor out in Clemens John.
Yeah.
Boss has been.
Yeah.
And people sit down at Cranky's or wherever and have conversations, and someone says, well, I'm poor and here's why, and here's what you're not doing for me, or here's what I thought, because one of the biggest things is, and you went back to my college, when someone asks a question, the answer you give them is a reflective of not only you, but who you are, and everyone's interpretation of who you are. So if you treat me with ill will, you're now a black man who's, 59, and I group all. Unfortunately, we all prejudge
Group
and
them
put
all
everybody
together. All together.
And we've got to answer the questions right, but we've got to hear from everybody too.
I appreciate you, man.
I think what you're doing here is awesome, and I appreciate you.
Thank you.
And I got one more person we got to thank, and that's Jeff Smith. I'm sure you know who Smitty's Notes is.
Of course I do.
Smitty sponsors our show every once in a while. So
Really?
Thank you, Jeff, for what you do, and thank you, Sheriff. Go to Amazon and check out his books. I've got two of them here. This is some quotes you do called Beyond Midnight. This is the other one, Beyond Midnight, the actual book, Finding Strength in the Struggle. And then the other one was
Surviving the Stop.
Surviving the Stop of Being Pulled Over. This is your sheriff in Forsyth County, Sheriff Bobby Kimbrough, and thank you for watching us on Camel City Chat. We'll have more next week. All the best.